The paternity test results sat face down on my kitchen table, next to a half-empty bottle of bourbon I'd bought 3 hours ago. I'd never been much of a drinker before today. My name is David Palmer, and 20 minutes ago I learned that my 6-year-old daughter Emma might not be mine. But let me back up. This morning started like any other Thursday. I kissed my wife Rebecca goodbye as she headed to her yoga class, the same class she'd been attending religiously for the past 3 years, every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. sharp. I dropped Emma at school, her blonde pigtails bouncing as she ran toward the playground. Then I drove to my accounting firm in downtown Portland, ready for another day of tax returns and quarterly reports. The call came at 11:30. "Mr. Palmer, this is Dr. Whitney from Portland General. Your father-in-law, Robert Hayes, was brought in this morning. Heart attack. He's asking for you." Robert Hayes. The man who'd never liked me, never thought I was good enough for his precious daughter. But family was family, so I cleared my schedule and drove straight to the hospital. I found him in the ICU, tubes running from his arms, monitors beeping steadily. At 72, Robert still had that stern, uncompromising look that had intimidated me since the day Rebecca first brought me home for dinner. "David," he rasped, his voice weak, "close the door." I did as he asked, pulling a chair beside his bed. His hand, spotted with age and ivy bruises, grabbed mine with surprising strength. "I'm dying," he said flatly. "Doctor gave me the straight talk. This ticker's done." "Robert, don't say that. You're strong. Shut up and listen." His eyes, still sharp despite the pallor of his face, locked onto mine. "I've got something to tell you. Something I should have told you years ago." A chill ran down my spine. Something in his tone made my stomach clench. "Rebecca," he started, then coughed, a wet, rattling sound. She's not the woman you think she is." I tried to pull my hand away, but he held firm. 7 years ago, before Emma was born, Rebecca came to me, crying. Said she'd made a mistake. Said she'd been seeing someone else. He paused, struggling for breath. A man from her gym, some personal trainer. It had been going on for months. The room tilted. I gripped the armrest of my chair. "She was pregnant. Didn't know if it was yours or his. Begged me not to tell you. Said she'd ended it, that she wanted to make things work with you." Robert's eyes glistened. "I told her to keep her mouth shut, to let you believe the baby was yours. I thought I was protecting her, protecting the family." My mouth went dry. "You're lying." "I wish I was, son." He released my hand, reaching for the small table beside his bed. With trembling fingers, he pulled open the drawer and retrieved a manila envelope. "After she told me, I hired a private investigator, just to make sure the affair was really over. It wasn't." He handed me the envelope. I didn't want to take it. Didn't want to know what was inside. But my hand moved on its own, accepting it. She kept seeing him, on and off, for years. Maybe still is, I don't know. I stopped checking 2 years ago. Couldn't stomach it anymore. A tear rolled down his weathered cheek. "I'm sorry, David. I'm a coward. I should have told you the moment I found out, but she's my daughter and I chose wrong." "Why tell me now?" "Because I'm about to meet my maker, and I can't go with this on my conscience." He closed his eyes. "And because you deserve to know the truth. About everything. About Emma. Emma. My little girl. The one who called me daddy, who made me Father's Day cards with crayon drawings of us holding hands, who fell asleep on my chest during movie nights. There's a lab report in there," Robert continued, "from 6 months after Emma was born. Rebecca asked me to arrange a paternity test. Said she needed to know for sure. I used my connections. Had it done quietly. The results are in there. My hands shook as I held the envelope. I couldn't open it. Not here? Not now? The investigators' reports are in there too. Photos. Dates. Hotel receipts. Everything you'll need. Robert's breathing grew more labored. I've also included a letter authorizing you to access my safety deposit box at First National. There's more documentation there. Financial records showing money I gave her over the years. She said it was for Emma's future, but he trailed off. A nurse entered, checking the monitors. "Mr. Hayes, you need to rest. Your blood pressure—" "Get out," he growled with surprising force. She hesitated, then left. "One more thing," Robert said, his voice fading. "My will. I'm leaving everything to Emma. $2 million in assets, the house in Lake Oswego, the rental properties. But I've set it up in a trust that you control, not Rebecca. My lawyer has the details. I don't want her touching a dime of it." He started coughing again, harder this time. The monitors began beeping frantically. Nurses rushed in, pushing me aside. "Mr. Palmer, you need to leave." I stumbled out of the room, the envelope clutched against my chest like a shield. Or maybe a bomb. That was 4 hours ago. Now I sat in my kitchen, the bourbon doing nothing to numb the ice spreading through my veins. I'd opened the envelope in my car, parked in a grocery store lot where nobody knew me. I'd seen enough to confirm Robert wasn't lying. Photos of Rebecca with a man I didn't recognize, entering hotels at noon, leaving 2 hours later. But I hadn't looked at the paternity test yet. I reached for it now, my hand steadier than I expected. The paper felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds as I turned it over. I sat in the parking lot of Fred Meyer for 20 minutes after reading the paternity test results, watching people push shopping carts across wet asphalt. The paper said Emma was mine, 99.97% probability. The numbers blurred and refocused. Mine. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt the ground shift beneath me again. Because Robert Hayes, that bastard, had known for 6 years that Emma was mine. He'd had the test done when she was 6 months old. And he'd never told me. Never put me out of that misery. He'd let me wonder. Let me live with that shadow of doubt while he made his calculations, moved his money around, set up his trust fund with me as the gatekeeper. The phone rang. "Rebecca." I let it go to voicemail, then listened to it. "David, where are you? You said you'd be home by noon. Emma wants to go to the park. Call me back." Her voice sounded normal, cheerful even, like she hadn't been screwing someone else for 7 years. Like our entire marriage wasn't built on a foundation of lies. I drove home, pulled into the driveway at 1:15. Rebecca's Lexus was there, which meant she wasn't at yoga. Tuesday and Thursday. That's what she'd always said. But according to the PI reports, she'd been going 4 days a week, sometimes 5. The extra sessions weren't yoga. Emma ran to the door when I came in. "Daddy, you're home." I picked her up, held her tight. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and crayons. Mine. The word kept echoing in my head. Mine. "Hey, sweetheart, how was your morning?" "Good. Mommy said we could go to the park, but we had to wait for you." Rebecca appeared in the hallway, wearing black yoga pants and a fitted top. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked concerned. "Where were you? I was worried." "Work thing," I said. "Last-minute client issue." The lie came easily. That should have bothered me more than it did. "On a Saturday?" "Tax season never ends." I set Emma down. "Why don't you go get your jacket, honey?" We'll head to the park in a few minutes. Emma bounded up the stairs. Rebecca stepped closer, lowering her voice. Is everything okay? You seem off. I'm fine. David, I said I'm fine. The words came out harder than I intended. She blinked, took a step back. Okay, You've been distant since you got back from the hospital yesterday. I know my father's death is hard, but he's not dead yet. I walked past her into the kitchen, pulled a glass from the cabinet, filled it with water. My hands were steady. That surprised me. Rebecca followed. The doctors said it could be any day now. Maybe we should talk about the arrangements, the funeral. I know he and you never got along, but did he ever tell you why he didn't like me? She paused. He was protective. You know that. I was his only daughter. That's not an answer. David, what's going on? I turned to face her, studied her face. The woman I'd been married to for 7 years. The woman I'd trusted, loved, built a life with. I didn't know her at all. Nothing, I said. I'm just tired. Let's take Emma to the park. We spent 2 hours at Laurelhurst Park. Emma played on the swings, the slide, the climbing structure. Rebecca sat on the bench beside me, scrolling through her phone. I watched Emma laugh, watched her blonde pigtails bounce as she ran. I have yoga tomorrow, Rebecca said, not looking up from her phone. 4 o'clock class. I'll be back by 6. Tomorrow's Sunday. They added a Sunday session. New instructor. She glanced at me. That okay? Sure. The lie was so casual, so practiced. I wondered how many times she'd done this, how many fabricated yoga classes, how many invented errands. The PI reports documented dozens of meetings, hotels in Lake Oswego, Beaverton, downtown Portland, always during the day, always when I was at work. Actually, I said, I might need you home tomorrow. I have to go into the office. Her jaw tightened. Just for a second. On Sunday? Client emergency, international deadline. Can it wait until Monday? No. We stared at each other. Emma called from the swings. Daddy, push me higher. I stood up, walked over, gave her a push. She squealed with delight. When I came back to the bench, Rebecca was texting someone. Her fingers moved fast across the screen. She hit send, then put the phone away. I'll cancel the class, she said. Family comes first. That night, after Emma was asleep, I went into my home office and locked the door, opened my laptop, started going through the PI reports more carefully. The investigator's name was printed at the top. Thomas Wright, licensed private investigator, Oregon license 4782. The reports were thorough. Dates, times, locations, photographs of Rebecca entering and leaving hotels with a man I didn't recognize. Tall, athletic build, dark hair. The personal trainer, presumably. His name was listed, Kyle Brennan. But it was the financial records that caught my attention. Robert Hayes had been paying Rebecca money. Regular transfers. $5,000 deposited into an account I didn't know she had. The deposit started 7 years ago, right after Emma was born. They came monthly, like clockwork. The account statement showed withdrawals too. Cash withdrawals, always round numbers. 2,000, 3,000. Sometimes 5. I pulled up my own financial records, cross-referenced dates, found a pattern. Every time Rebecca withdrew cash from her secret account, there was a corresponding charge on our joint credit card. Hotel rooms, restaurants, shopping trips. She was using Robert's money to fund her affair, then covering it with legitimate expenses on our card to make everything look normal. My father-in-law had been bankrolling his daughter's adultery. and he'd left her nothing in the will. I leaned back in my chair, stared at the ceiling. The pieces were starting to fit together. Robert Hayes had known about the affair from the beginning. He'd paid for the paternity test, discovered Emma was mine, and then, what? Continued to pay Rebecca anyway? To keep her quiet? To maintain appearances? Or maybe he'd been trying to control her. Keep her on a leash with monthly payments, knowing that if she stepped too far out of line, he could cut her off. Except he'd never cut her off. The payments had continued right up until his heart attack. I opened the envelope again. Found the safety deposit box authorization. First National Bank, downtown Portland. Box number 847. Whatever was in that box, Robert Hayes had wanted me to find it. The hospital called at 11:30 that night. Robert Hayes was dead. Rebecca took the call. I heard her voice from the bedroom, muffled through the walls. When she came into my office, her eyes were red. "He's gone," she said. I stood up, went to her. Put my arms around her because that's what a husband does. She cried into my shoulder. Her body shook. "I need to call the funeral home," she said. "Make arrangements. Tomorrow. It can wait until tomorrow." She pulled back, wiped her eyes. "There's so much to do. The service, the obituary, the will. The will's already been read." She froze. "What?" "Your father's attorney was at the hospital yesterday, after you left. He wanted to go over some things." "What things?" I watched her face carefully. "Your father left everything to Emma. $2 million in a trust fund. I'm the trustee." Her expression didn't change. No surprise. No shock. She already knew. That's wonderful," she said. "Emma's future is secure." "You're not upset? He left you nothing." "I'm his daughter. Of course I'm upset. But Emma's his granddaughter. She should be taken care of." She touched my arm. "You'll manage it well. I trust you." The word trust coming from her mouth made me want to laugh. Or scream. I did neither. "There's a safety deposit box too," I said. "At First National. Your father left me the key." Now she reacted. Just a flicker. Her hand tightened on my arm. "A safety deposit box?" "Financial records," the attorney said. "Documentation for the trust. I should go with you when you open it. The authorization is in my name only. But I'm his daughter. And I'm the trustee. Your father was very specific about who could access his records." We stood there in the doorway of my office, my wife and I, having a conversation that was really about something else entirely. "When will you go?" she asked. "Monday, after work. I want to know what's in there." "You will, once I've reviewed everything." Her eyes narrowed. "David, what's going on? You've been acting strange since yesterday. Did my father say something to you before he died?" I met her gaze, held it. "He said goodbye, that's all." Another lie. We were both so good at them. The safety deposit box sat at the table between us. First National Bank's private viewing room smelled like old paper and furniture polish. I'd driven straight from the grocery store parking lot, Rebecca's lie still fresh in my ears. The bank manager had been apologetic about the Monday morning wait, but Robert's death certificate and the authorization letter from the envelope had gotten me through the door. Now I just had to open it. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. I'd been shaking on and off since Saturday, since Robert's confession, but now, faced with whatever final revelation my father-in-law had left behind, I felt oddly calm. The key turned smoothly. Inside, a second manila envelope, thicker than the first. A USB drive taped to a handwritten note. And underneath, A stack of what looked like financial statements bound with a rubber band. I picked up the note first. David, if you're reading this, I'm dead, and you've made it this far. Good. You'll need what's in here. I told you Rebecca was having an affair with a personal trainer. That was true 7 years ago. It's not the whole truth now. The USB drive contains files from Rebecca's work computer. I hired someone to copy them 6 months ago when I started getting suspicious. I'm not proud of that, but I'm not apologizing either. Rebecca works for Navrite Systems. You know that. What you don't know is what she's been doing there. Look at the files. Look at the financial statements. Then look at the crime data I've included. I couldn't go to the police myself. She's still my daughter. But you're not bound by that. I'm sorry I waited so long. Robert. I set the note down carefully. Navrite Systems. Rebecca's employer for the past 5 years. She was a senior software engineer there, worked on routing algorithms. Good salary, stock options, the whole package. She'd been proud when they hired her. I unplugged the USB drive from the note and pulled out my laptop. The drive contained dozens of folders, all dated and labeled. I clicked on the most recent one. Code files. Hundreds of them. I wasn't a programmer, but I could read documentation well enough. Years of reviewing financial software had taught me how to parse technical specifications. This wasn't standard navigation code. I opened a file labeled Route Override Protocol V7TXT. The documentation was clinical, precise. A system for injecting false routing data into Navrite's consumer GPS application. Not random errors, targeted ones. Routes that would redirect specific users to specific locations at specific times. My stomach went cold. I clicked through more files. Found spreadsheets tracking successful redirections. Dates, times, locations. User IDs that had been rerouted. Then I found the folder labeled Incidents, Police Reports, News Articles, all saved as PDFs, organized by date. January 15th. Armed robbery, Northeast Portland, 11:47 p.m. Victim reported GPS directed them to shortcut through industrial area. 2 suspects, ski masks, handgun. Wallet and phone stolen. February 3rd. Carjacking, Southeast Powell Boulevard, 10:23 p.m. Victim's navigation system rerouted them from highway to isolated side street. 3 suspects, 1 armed. Vehicle recovered 2 days later, stripped. March 8th. Aggravated robbery, North Lombard Street, 1:15 a.m. Victim following GPS directions to airport hotel. Directed to abandoned warehouse district instead. 2 suspects, knife, injuries requiring hospitalization. I scrolled faster. April, May, June, July. 15 incidents total. All in Portland. All involving Navrite users who'd been mysteriously rerouted to high-crime areas. All resulting in robberies, carjackings, or assaults. And underneath the police reports, another spreadsheet. This one tracked money. Deposits to an offshore account. Amounts ranging from $2,000 to $8,000. Dates that corresponded exactly to the incident dates, usually 2 or 3 days after. The account holder was listed as R. Palmer. Rebecca. I sat back in the chair. My wife wasn't just having an affair. She was using her access to Navrite's routing systems to direct people into ambushes. She was programming the GPS to send drivers to specific locations where accomplices were waiting to rob them. The room felt very small suddenly. I forced myself to keep reading. Found another folder. Communication logs. Email threads between Rebecca and someone using an encrypted email service. The contact name was just a string of numbers, but the content was clear enough. Target acquired. User ID 847392. Route set for Thursday 11th p.m. Burnside and 82nd. Confirmed. Team ready. Standard split. Yes. Deposit by Monday. The emails went back 18 months. I opened the financial statements Robert had included. These were different from the offshore account records. These showed Rebecca's regular banking activity. Large cash deposits. Always just under $10,000, the federal reporting threshold. Always a few days after the offshore deposits. The money was being laundered through her regular accounts in careful increments. Over 18 months, she'd deposited nearly $90,000. I thought about our joint account, the one she managed because I was always too busy with work. The one that somehow never seemed to have quite as much as I expected, even with both our salaries. She'd been skimming, taking money out gradually, covering it with explanations about Emma's activities, household expenses, her gym membership. The gym membership where she'd allegedly met Kyle Brennan 7 years ago. I pulled out my phone and searched for Kyle Brennan, personal trainer, Portland. Nothing. I tried variations, different spellings, nearby cities. Still nothing. Kyle Brennan didn't exist. Robert's private investigator reports had documented an affair with a man who didn't exist. Photos of Rebecca with someone whose face was always conveniently obscured or turned away. Hotel receipts that proved she was somewhere, but not necessarily with whom. The affair had been a cover story. Something to explain the money, the absences, the deception. Robert had believed it, or pretended to, because it was easier than believing his daughter was a criminal. But 6 months ago, he'd started digging deeper. Had hired someone to copy her work files. Had found the truth. And then he'd had his heart attack. I looked at the date on the most recent email in the communication logs. Last Thursday. 3 days before Robert died. User ID 923847. Route set for Saturday 10:30 p.m. Marine Drive Industrial Area. Saturday. 2 days ago. The night after Robert's confession. I searched Portland news for Saturday night robberies. Found it immediately. Portland police investigating armed robbery near Marine Drive. Victim, a 34-year-old Seattle resident visiting Portland, reported being directed by GPS navigation to isolated area where 2 masked suspects robbed him at gunpoint. Victim's phone and wallet stolen. Police asking anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. Rebecca had set up another robbery while her father was dying in the hospital. I closed the laptop. Sat there in the silence of the viewing room, surrounded by evidence of my wife's systematic use of technology to hurt people, to rob them, to weaponize something as mundane as GPS navigation into a tool for crime. The bank manager knocked softly. "Mr. Palmer, is everything all right?" "Fine," I said. "I just need a few more minutes." I needed more than a few minutes. I needed to figure out what to do with this. Robert's note had been clear. I couldn't go to the police myself. She's still my daughter. But you're not bound by that. He'd left this for me to find. Left the decision to me. I thought about Emma. 6 years old, blonde pigtails, drawing pictures of our family with crayons. She'd drawn one yesterday, me and her and Rebecca, all holding hands in front of our house. She'd given Rebecca a big smile and written, "I love Mommy," in crooked letters across the top. Emma, who had no idea her mother was a criminal, who thought yoga classes on Sunday mornings were real, who trusted the world to be safe and good. I thought about the victims. 15 of them in the police reports. Probably more that hadn't been documented. People just trying to get where they were going, trusting their GPS to guide them safely. One had been hospitalized. I pulled out my phone again. Searched for FBI Portland field office. Found the number for their cybercrime division. My finger hovered over the call button. Once I made this call, there was no going back. Rebecca would be arrested, charged with federal crimes, conspiracy, wire fraud, probably a dozen other things. Emma would lose her mother. I'd be a single parent, explaining to a 6-year-old why mommy wasn't coming home. But people were being hurt, and Rebecca was still doing it, still setting up victims, still collecting her cut of the proceeds. I pressed the call button. FBI Portland, how may I direct your call? Cybercrime Division, I said. I have evidence of technology being used to facilitate robberies. The FBI field office in downtown Portland looked nothing like the movies. No dramatic glass towers or imposing federal architecture. Just a nondescript building on Southwest 3rd Avenue that I'd probably driven past 100 times without noticing. I sat in my car across the street for 20 minutes before I could make myself move. The manila envelope sat on the passenger seat. Robert's evidence. My evidence now. 18 months of crime location data. Bank records showing deposits that corresponded perfectly with robbery dates. Screenshots of code Rebecca had written. Routing algorithms that looked legitimate but contained subtle modifications directing drivers to specific coordinates. My phone buzzed. Rebecca. Running late. Meeting went long. Can you pick up Emma from school? I stared at the message. She was still at Navrite, probably sitting in some conference room discussing user engagement metrics or software updates. Maybe walking past colleagues who had no idea what she'd been doing with their navigation platform. I typed back, got her? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, thanks. Love you. My hand shook. I locked the phone and shoved it in my pocket. The FBI lobby was exactly what I expected. Metal detectors, board security guards, that peculiar government building smell of industrial cleaner and recycled air. I approached the reception desk where a woman in her 50s looked up from her computer. I need to report a cybercrime, I said. Multiple armed robberies facilitated through GPS navigation software. She blinked once, then reached for her phone. 1 moment. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Special Agent Tyler Brooks in a windowless interview room. He was younger than I expected, maybe late 30s, with the kind of lean build that suggested he actually used the FBI gym. His partner, Special Agent Lisa Garrett, sat beside him. She had sharp eyes that hadn't stopped watching me since I walked in. Mr. Palmer, Brooks said, opening a notepad, walk us through it from the beginning. I did. Starting with Robert's deathbed confession, the affair that wasn't really an affair, the safety deposit box, the evidence that showed Rebecca's systematic manipulation of Navrite's routing algorithms over 18 months. She works as a senior software engineer, I said. She has direct access to the routing database. The modifications are subtle. They wouldn't trigger automatic alerts. Just small adjustments that redirect drivers who meet certain criteria. What criteria? Garrett asked. Expensive cars, traveling alone, routes through or near specific neighborhoods in North and Northeast Portland. The algorithm identifies them and creates what looks like a normal traffic avoidance detour. But the detour routes them to isolated locations. I slid the first document across the table. These are the coordinates where robberies occurred according to police reports. I cross-referenced them with Rebecca's code modifications. Brooks studied the data. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. How did you obtain your wife's code? Garrett asked. Robert, my father-in-law, hired a private investigator, The PI managed to access her work laptop while she was at a conference 6 months ago. I paused. I know that's not legal evidence, but it's a roadmap. You can get warrants, subpoena NavRight servers, verify everything independently. This PI, Brooks said, we'll need their name. I gave them everything from Robert's file, the investigator's contact information, the bank records showing Rebecca's deposits, always cash, always within 48 hours of a reported robbery, the crime location data that matched her code modifications with almost perfect precision. 15 confirmed incidents, I said. Probably more we haven't identified. Total victim losses estimated at over $200,000. Rebecca's share appears to be roughly $90,000. Garrett leaned forward. Do you know who her accomplices are? No. Robert's investigator couldn't identify them. The robberies were carried out by at least 2 people, based on victim statements. Masked, armed with handguns. They knew exactly when the drivers would arrive. Because your wife told them, Brooks said. Yes. The word tasted like metal. Brooks and Garrett exchanged a look. Some kind of silent communication that came from years of partnership. Mr. Palmer, Garrett said carefully, I need to ask. Why are you coming forward with this now? Your father-in-law discovered this information 6 months ago. He chose not to report it. He was dying. He didn't want to spend his last months watching his daughter go to prison. I met her eyes. But he couldn't live with staying silent either. So he put the decision on me. And you've decided. She's been robbing people at gunpoint, I said. Well, directing people to be robbed at gunpoint. One victim was hospitalized with a concussion. Another had a heart condition. The stress could have killed him. This isn't some white-collar embezzlement scheme. People are getting hurt. Brooks made a note. Does your wife know you have this information? No. Where is she now? At work. NavRight's office is in the Pearl District. She thinks I'm picking up our daughter from school. Another exchanged glance. Mr. Palmer, Brooks said, we're going to need you to not contact your wife about this conversation. Don't tell her you came here. Don't mention the FBI. Don't change your normal routine in any way that might alert her. Can you do that? The room felt smaller suddenly. For how long? We'll move as quickly as we can, but we need to verify your evidence, obtain warrants, coordinate with Portland police on the robbery cases. We're talking days, maybe a week or 2. You want me to just go home and act normal? Yes, Garrett said. I know that's difficult, but if your wife suspects we're investigating, she could destroy evidence, alert her accomplices, or flee. We need the element of surprise. I thought about Emma. 6 years old, waiting at school for pickup, probably showing her teacher the drawing she'd made during art class. What happens to my daughter? I asked. When you arrest Rebecca. Brooks's expression softened slightly. That's not our jurisdiction. But typically, if there's another parent with no involvement in the crime, she stays with me. Most likely, yes. Until family court makes formal arrangements. I try to imagine explaining this to Emma. Mommy's going away for a while, sweetheart. No, not a business trip. More like, what? How do you tell a 6-year-old that her mother is a criminal? I need something from you, I said, before I agree to this. Garrett's eyebrows rose slightly. You're not really in a position to negotiate, Mr. Palmer. This is a federal investigation. I know, but I need to know, when you arrest her, can you do it somewhere away from our house? Not in front of Emma, not where our neighbors can see. Just give her that much dignity. Brooks considered this. We can't make promises about operational details, but we'll take your concerns into account. If possible, we'll make the arrest at her workplace or arrange for her to come in for questioning. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was something. Okay, I said. What do you need from me? The next hour was a blur of questions and documentation. They photographed every page from Robert's envelope, made copies of the bank records, the code screenshots, the crime location data. Asked me to write out a detailed timeline of what I knew and when I learned it. We'll be in touch, Brooke said as we finished. Remember, no contact with your wife about this. No unusual behavior. If she asks why you seem distracted, blame it on grief over your father-in-law's death. She won't ask, I said. She barely noticed when he was dying. Garrett walked me to the elevator. Mr. Palmer? For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. I know it doesn't feel that way. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. Does it get easier? I asked. Knowing you've destroyed your family? She looked at me with something that might have been sympathy. Your wife destroyed your family. You're just refusing to be complicit in her crimes. The doors closed. I sat in my car for another 20 minutes before I could trust myself to drive. Then I headed to Emma's school, where my daughter would run out with her backpack bouncing and throw herself into my arms, completely unaware that in a week or two, her entire world was going to shatter. The GPS on my dashboard helpfully suggested the fastest route. I turned it off and drove from memory instead. The hardest part was pretending everything was normal. Rebecca came home at 6:15, same as always. I heard her car in the driveway, the familiar sound of her keys in the door. Emma was at the kitchen table with me, working on a worksheet from school. Simple addition problems with cartoon animals in the margins. Daddy, how many is 7 plus 5? Count it out on your fingers, sweetheart. The door opened. Rebecca's voice carried from the entryway. I'm home. Emma scrambled down from her chair and ran to greet her mother. I stayed seated, forcing myself to breathe normally. My hands were steady on the table. I'd spent the last 3 hours practicing this, sitting in our living room, rehearsing casual responses, reminding myself that Agent Brooks had been explicit. Act normal. Don't confront. Don't give any indication that anything has changed. Rebecca appeared in the kitchen doorway with Emma attached to her leg. She looked exactly like she always did. Dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. Yoga pants and a Navrite Systems hoodie. Tired smile. She could have been any working mother coming home after a long day. How was your day? She asked, setting her bag on the counter. Fine, quiet, the usual. I managed to look at her face. How was yours? Exhausting. We had a product review meeting that ran 2 hours over. She opened the refrigerator, scanning the contents. Did you start dinner? I was waiting for you. She pulled out chicken breasts and bell peppers. I'll make stir-fry. Emma, did you finish your homework? Almost. Daddy's helping me. Rebecca glanced at me. Just a normal glance. Domestic. Routine. Thanks for that. I nodded. This was going to kill me. Dinner was a special kind of torture. We sat at the same table where I'd read Robert's letter 4 days ago. Emma chattered about her friend Madison's birthday party next weekend. Rebecca asked about my day at work. I invented details about a client audit that didn't exist. Pass the rice? Rebecca said. I handed her the bowl. Our fingers didn't touch. She served herself, then Emma. I might have to work late tomorrow. We're rolling out an update to the routing algorithm. The routing algorithm. I cut my chicken into smaller pieces. What kind of update? Just optimization stuff, improving response times for traffic pattern changes. She said it so casually, like she was talking about anything normal. Boring technical stuff. Sounds important. It pays the bills, she smiled at Emma, and lets us buy presents for birthday parties. Emma grinned. Can we get Madison the Lego set? The big one with the castle? We'll see. I watched Rebecca across the table, watched her help Emma cut her chicken, watched her laugh at something our daughter said, watched her be a mother. Agent Brooks's words echoed in my head. She's been doing this for 18 months. She's good at compartmentalizing. How did someone do this? How did someone program routes that sent people into danger, collect money from their terror, then come home and help with addition homework? David? I looked up. Rebecca was watching me. Sorry, what? I asked if you wanted the last of the stir-fry. No, I'm good. Her eyes lingered on me for a moment. Something shifted in her expression. Curiosity, maybe concern. You sure you're okay? You seem distracted. Just tired. You've seemed tired a lot lately. My pulse kicked up. Work's been busy. She stood, collecting plates. Well, don't burn yourself out. Emma hopped down from her chair. Can I watch a show? Half an hour, Rebecca said. Then bath time. Emma ran to the living room. I heard the TV click on, the familiar theme song of some cartoon about talking animals. Rebecca moved to the sink, started rinsing dishes. I stayed at the table. David? I looked at her back. She was loading the dishwasher, methodical and efficient. Robert's funeral is next week, she said quietly. Tuesday. I talked to the funeral home today. Right. The funeral. Robert Hayes, who'd spent his last days trying to protect me from his daughter's secrets. Okay. It'll be small. Just family and a few of his friends from the veterans group. She closed the dishwasher, turned to face me. I know you two weren't close, but I appreciate you being there. For me. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. Tried to find something. Guilt, fear, remorse. Anything that suggested she was carrying the weight of what she'd done. She just looked sad, grieving her father. Of course, I said. That night, Rebecca fell asleep before I did. She always did. I lay in the dark next to her, listening to her breathe. Steady, peaceful breaths. The sleep of someone with a clear conscience. My phone was on the nightstand. I'd turned off all notifications, but I kept checking it anyway, waiting for something from Agent Brooks, an update, a timeline, anything. Nothing came. Rebecca shifted in her sleep, rolling toward me. Her arm draped across my chest. Automatic, unconscious. 7 years of marriage made the gesture muscle memory. I didn't move, didn't push her away. Just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of her arm and thinking about the drivers she'd sent into danger. Thinking about Agent Brooks's description. Isolated industrial areas, fake detours, accomplices waiting. How many people had been terrified because of the woman sleeping next to me? The next day was Friday. I went to work because that's what normal looked like. Sat at my desk, reviewed spreadsheets, responded to emails. My colleague Jerry stopped by to ask about lunch, and I told him I'd brought something from home. At 2:30, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stepped into an empty conference room before answering. David Palmer. Mr. Palmer, this is Agent Brooks. Her voice was crisp, professional. Do you have a moment to talk? Yes. We've made significant progress. We've identified 2 of your wife's accomplices through cell tower data and financial records. We're also monitoring her communications and movements. Everything you provided has been extremely valuable. I sat down in one of the conference chairs. How much longer? We're aiming for early next week, Monday or Tuesday. We want to coordinate arrests simultaneously. Your wife and both accomplices. We can't risk one of them alerting the others. Monday or Tuesday. 3 or 4 more days of this. Mr. Palmer, I need to ask, has your wife noticed anything unusual in your behavior? I thought about last night. Rebecca asking if I was okay. Commenting that I'd seemed tired lately. She asked if something was wrong. I told her work was busy. Did she seem suspicious? I don't know, maybe concerned. A pause on the line. You need to be careful. If she suspects you know something, she might run or destroy evidence. Can you maintain the deception for a few more days? Could I? Could I sit across from her at dinner, sleep next to her at night, pretend everything was fine while knowing what she'd done? Yes, I said. Good. We'll contact you Monday morning with the exact timing. When we move, we'll do it while Emma is at school. We want to minimize her exposure to the arrest. Emma, my daughter, who had no idea her mother was about to be taken away by federal agents. What do I tell her? That's up to you, Mr. Palmer. But I'd recommend consulting with a family therapist before you make any decisions. This is going to be traumatic for her no matter how you handle it. After Brooks hung up, I sat in the conference room for another 10 minutes. Through the window, I could see downtown Portland. Normal people going about normal lives. None of them knew that their GPS app might be leading them into a trap. My phone buzzed again. Text from Rebecca. Working late tonight. Meeting ran over. Home by 8. I stared at the message. Was she really in a meeting? Or was she coordinating another robbery? Planning another route that would send some unsuspecting driver to an isolated location where her accomplices waited? I typed back, "Okay, I'll feed Emma." 3 dots appeared. Then, "Thank you. Love you." I didn't respond to that. Emma and I had pizza for dinner, just the two of us. She told me about art class, about the paintings she'd made of our family, me, Rebecca, her, and our cat Oliver. Stick figures with big smiles. "Can we hang it on the fridge?" she asked. Of course. She beamed. I helped her find a magnet, watched her carefully position the painting where she could see it. Our happy family. In a few days, that picture would be a lie. Rebecca came home at 8:15. She looked exhausted. "Sorry I'm late." "It's fine." She kissed Emma goodnight, then disappeared into our bedroom. I heard the shower running, heard her moving around, getting ready for bed. When I finally went upstairs, she was already under the covers, reading something on her phone. "Everything okay?" I asked. She looked up. "Just catching up on emails. This product launch is going to be intense." I changed into sleep clothes, brushed my teeth. When I came back, she'd put her phone away. "David?" I turned. "Thank you," she said, "for holding down the fort while I've been swamped at work. I know it's been a lot." I stood there, looking at her. My wife, the mother of my child, the woman who'd weaponized navigation software to rob people. "It's what we do," I said. "We're a team." She smiled. Warm, genuine. "Yeah, we are." I got into bed next to her. She turned off the light. In the darkness, I counted the hours until Monday. The alarm went off at 6:30 Monday morning. I'd been awake for hours. Rebecca stirred beside me, her hand reaching across the sheets. I forced myself not to flinch when her fingers brushed my shoulder. "Morning," she mumbled. "Morning." She rolled over, checked her phone. I've got that early stand-up meeting. Probably won't be home until 7 or 8 tonight. Okay. You're taking Emma to school? Yeah. She kissed my cheek before heading to the shower. I lay there listening to the water run, thinking about Agent Brooks's text from last night. Coordinated arrests scheduled for 11 a.m. Stay away from NavRight offices. We'll contact you after. 11 o'clock. 4.5 hours from now. I got Emma ready for school while Rebecca blow-dried her hair in the bathroom. Cereal, backpack, permission slip for the field trip next week. Normal Monday morning routine. Emma chattered about her friend Sophia's birthday party on Saturday while I tied her shoes. Can we get her a present after school? Sure, sweetheart. Rebecca came downstairs in gray slacks and a blue blouse. Professional. Put together. She kissed Emma's head, grabbed her laptop bag. Love you both, she said at the door. Love you too, Mommy. I said nothing. The door closed. Her car started in the driveway, backed out. Gone. I stood at the kitchen window watching her taillights disappear down the street. Daddy, we're gonna be late. Right, let's go. I dropped Emma at Bridal Mile Elementary at 7:40. Watched her run across the playground to join her friends. Pigtails bouncing, backpack almost bigger than she was. Then I drove to my office and tried to work. The spreadsheet on my screen might as well have been written in hieroglyphics. I stared at the numbers without seeing them. Checked my phone every 3 minutes. Refreshed my email. Nothing. At 10:15, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Palmer, this is Agent Brooks. Just confirming you're not at NavRight Systems or anywhere near the downtown area. I'm at my office in Beaverton. Good, stay there. The operation is proceeding as planned. I'll call you when it's done. Okay. One more thing. We're executing a search warrant at your residence at 11:15. Officers will secure the premises and conduct a thorough search. You'll be able to return home this evening, but the house will be processed as part of the investigation. My house. Emma's house. I understand. We'll be in touch. The line went dead. I sat there holding my phone, staring at the wall of my cubicle, trying to imagine what was happening downtown. Rebecca at her desk, maybe in that stand-up meeting she'd mentioned. Agents walking through the NavRight lobby, badges out. My phone buzzed at 11:07. Unknown number again. Palmer. Mr. Palmer, this is Agent Garrett. Rebecca Palmer is in custody. The arrest went smoothly, no incidents. Something in my chest loosened. Or tightened. I couldn't tell which. What happens now? She's being transported to the federal courthouse for initial appearance and arraignment. That'll happen this afternoon. We've also arrested 2 accomplices, Tyler Jackson and Kevin Morris. They were picked up simultaneously at their residences. Tyler Jackson. Kevin Morris. The names meant nothing to me. Did she say anything? She invoked her right to counsel immediately. Hasn't made any statements. Garrett paused. The evidence you provided was crucial, Mr. Palmer. The routing algorithm logs matched perfectly with the robbery locations and timestamps. Combined with the financial records and cell tower data, we have a very strong case. Good. You should know this is going to become public very quickly. NavRight stock is already dropping. Someone leaked the arrest to the media. Expect reporters to contact you. Don't talk to them. Refer everything to the FBI or your attorney. I don't have an attorney. You should get one. Not because you're in any trouble, but because this is going to get complicated, especially regarding your daughter. Emma. What about her? Child Services may want to conduct a welfare check, given the circumstances. It's standard procedure when a parent is arrested on felony charges. Do you have family who can help? My parents are in Seattle. They can come down. That would be good. The arraignment will determine if Rebecca gets bail. Given the nature of the charges and the evidence of planning, the prosecutor will argue she's a flight risk, but I can't predict what the judge will decide. After we hung up, I called my mother. David, is everything okay? No, Mom, it's not. I told her everything. The whole story, start to finish. Robert's deathbed confession, the safety deposit box, the FBI investigation, this morning's arrest. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, there was silence on the line. Mom? We're coming down. Your father and I will leave in an hour. You don't have to. We're coming down. Emma needs her grandparents right now, and so do you. My voice cracked. Okay? Have you eaten anything today? No. Eat something. We'll be there by 3. I tried to work, gave up at noon and went to the break room. Made coffee I didn't drink. Stood at the window watching cars in the parking lot. My phone buzzed constantly. News alerts. Text messages from numbers I didn't recognize. A call from someone claiming to be with the Oregonian. I ignored all of it. At 1:30, Agent Brooks called again. The arraignment is scheduled for 3 o'clock. Rebecca's attorney is arguing for bail. The prosecutor is opposing it. I wanted to give you a heads up before you see it on the news. Will she get out? Honestly, I don't know. The evidence is strong, but she has no prior record. Ties to the community, a young daughter. Some judges weigh that heavily. The thought of Rebecca walking out of that courthouse, coming home, sleeping in our bed tonight. If she does get bail, what happens? Electronic monitoring, almost certainly. Surrender of passport. Restrictions on computer and internet access. She won't be allowed near Navrite property or to contact the co-defendants. But yes, she could potentially come home. To my house, where my daughter lives. I understand this is difficult, Mr. Palmer. You may want to consider temporary separation or filing for divorce. That's not my area, but given the circumstances. After he hung up, I sat in my car in the parking lot and called the school. Bridal Mile Elementary, this is Janet. Hi, this is David Palmer, Emma Palmer's father. I need to pick her up early today. Family emergency. Oh no, is everything all right? It will be. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I signed Emma out at the office. She looked worried when she saw me. Are we going to the hospital? Is Grandpa okay? Grandpa's fine, sweetie. Grandma and Grandpa are actually coming to visit us. They'll be at our house this afternoon. Really? Her face lit up. Why? They just wanted to see you. Is that okay? Yeah. We stopped at Target on the way home. Bought a present for Sophia's birthday. Some kind of craft kit with beads and string. Emma carried the bag to the car like it contained treasure. Can we make cookies for Grandma and Grandpa? Sure. We pulled into our driveway at 2:15. There was yellow police tape across the front door. Emma went very still in her car seat. Daddy, why is there tape on our door? I'd prepared for this, rehearsed it in my head during the drive. Remember how Mommy works with computers? Well, the police needed to look at her work computer, and they had to come to our house to do it. It's okay, we can go inside. The tape just means they were here earlier. Is Mommy in trouble? I unbuckled her seatbelt, looked at her small, worried face. Mommy made some mistakes at work. The police are trying to figure everything out. But you didn't do anything wrong, and neither did I. Okay? Okay. I ducked under the tape and unlocked the door. The house looked like a tornado had hit it. Drawers open, cushions moved, papers scattered. They'd been thorough. Emma stood in the doorway, staring. It's okay, I said again. We'll clean it up. Why don't you go pick out which cookies you want to make? The recipe books are in the kitchen. She nodded and headed toward the kitchen, stepping carefully around the disorder. My phone buzzed. Another news alert. Navrite engineer arrested in GPS robbery scheme. 3 in custody after FBI investigation reveals navigation software used to target victims. I turned my phone face down on the counter. My parents arrived at 3:15. My mother took one look at the house and started cleaning without a word. My father sat with Emma at the kitchen table, helping her read the cookie recipe. At 4:30, Agent Brooks called. Rebecca Palmer was denied bail. Judge ruled she's a danger to the community and a flight risk given her technical expertise. She'll remain in federal custody pending trial. I closed my eyes. Thank you for letting me know. The preliminary hearing is scheduled for next Monday. You're not required to attend, but you may want to be there. And Mr. Palmer? Navrite issued a statement an hour ago. They're suspending all navigation services pending a complete security audit. The fallout from this is going to be significant. After dinner, pizza, because none of us could manage cooking, I put Emma to bed. She wanted both grandparents to read her a story. They sat on either side of her bed with a book about a bear who couldn't sleep. I stood in the doorway watching, thinking about how many times Rebecca had sat in that exact spot, reading those exact books. When Emma finally fell asleep, I went downstairs. My mother was washing dishes. My father sat at the kitchen table with the newspaper, reading about his daughter-in-law's arrest. You should eat something, my mother said. I'm not hungry. David, Mom, please. She dried her hands on a towel, came over and hugged me. I stood there in my mother's arms in my destroyed kitchen and tried to remember what normal felt like. The trial took 8 months. 8 months of preliminary hearings, motion filings, plea negotiations that went nowhere. 8 months of Rebecca's attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Wolfe, arguing that the evidence was circumstantial, that the routing code could have been modified by anyone with system access, that the financial records proved nothing. 8 months of Agent Brooks patiently walking me through what to expect, how to prepare Emma, how to answer the questions that would inevitably come. The prosecution's case was airtight. They had the code modifications with Rebecca's digital signature embedded in the metadata. They had the financial records showing deposits that aligned perfectly with robbery dates. They had testimony from Navrite's security team confirming Rebecca was the only engineer with both the access and expertise to make those specific changes. And they had Tyler Jackson, one of the accomplices, who took a plea deal in month 5 and testified against Rebecca and Kevin Morris in exchange for a reduced sentence. Jackson described the operation in clinical detail. How Rebecca would identify high-value targets through the navigation system, expensive cars, users traveling alone through Portland late at night. How she'd send encrypted messages with coordinates and timing. How they'd split the proceeds 60-40, with Rebecca taking the larger share for providing the intelligence. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Conspiracy to commit robbery. Wire fraud. Computer fraud and abuse. 18 counts total, 1 for each victim they could definitively link to her code modifications. The judge sentenced her to 12 years in federal prison. I sat in the courtroom gallery with my parents when the sentence came down. Rebecca didn't look at me. She'd stopped looking at me after the 3rd month, after her attorney's attempts to paint her as a victim of Robert's manipulation fell apart under cross-examination. Emma wasn't there. She was at school, in 2nd grade now, learning multiplication tables and reading chapter books. She knew her mother was in jail. She knew her mother had hurt people with computers, But she didn't know the details. Wouldn't know them for years if I had anything to say about it. The divorce was finalized 2 months after sentencing. Rebecca didn't contest it. Didn't fight for custody or visitation rights. Her attorney filed a simple response agreeing to all terms. I would have full legal and physical custody of Emma. Rebecca would have no contact except supervised letters if and when Emma requested them. She never requested them. I sold the house in Portland. Too many memories. Too many reporters who'd figured out where we lived. We moved to Bend, where my firm had a satellite office and nobody knew our story. Smaller town, better schools, mountains instead of traffic. Emma adjusted better than I expected. Kids are resilient in ways that terrify me. She made new friends, joined soccer, started calling my parents every Sunday to tell them about her week. She asked about Rebecca less and less as time went on. The questions changed from, "When is mommy coming home?" to, "Do you think mommy thinks about me?" to eventually, nothing at all. I didn't know how to feel about that. Relief and grief mixed together in equal measure. Robert Hayes's trust fund grew steadily. 2 million became 2.3, then 2.5. I managed it carefully, conservatively, the way he'd wanted. Emma would have it when she turned 25. Enough for college, graduate school, a house down payment. Enough to build a life. I never told Emma the full story of how her grandfather had orchestrated everything from his deathbed. How he'd gathered evidence, set up the trust, made sure I'd have the resources to do what he couldn't. Maybe someday I would. When she was older. When she could understand the complicated math of love and loyalty and doing the wrong thing for what someone believed were the right reasons. Navrite Systems never recovered. The company folded within a year, sued into oblivion by victims and shareholders alike. 17 people came forward with robbery claims. The settlements totaled $40 million. I testified at 3 civil trials. Explained what I'd found, what I'd reported, how the scheme had worked. Each time, I watched victims describe their terror. The confusion when their GPS led them somewhere wrong. The helplessness when masked men appeared. The trauma that lingered months and years later. One woman said she couldn't use navigation apps anymore. Drove everywhere with paper maps, even though she knew rationally that the danger had passed. I understood that impulse. The inability to trust something that had betrayed you. 5 years after the sentencing, I met someone. Her name was Jennifer. She was a teacher at Emma's school, patient and kind, with a laugh that made me remember what happiness felt like. We took things slowly. Coffee dates that turned into dinners. Dinners that turned into weekend hikes with Emma trailing behind us, collecting interesting rocks. "Does Emma's mom know about me?" Jennifer asked one night after Emma had gone to bed. We were sitting on my back porch, watching the stars come out over the Cascade Mountains. "I don't know what Rebecca knows," I said honestly. "We don't communicate. Everything goes through her attorney. Does that bother you?" I thought about it. "No, not anymore." Jennifer took my hand. "You're a good father. I hope you know that." I didn't always know that. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I'd done the right thing. If I should have confronted Rebecca privately, given her a chance to turn herself in, found some way to handle it that didn't result in Emma losing her mother. But then I'd remember the victims. The man who'd been hospitalized. The woman who couldn't use GPS anymore. The 17 people whose lives had been upended because my wife had decided their safety was worth less than money. I'd made the only choice I could live with. Emma turned 13 last month. She's tall now, taller than Jennifer, with my dark hair and Rebecca's sharp cheekbones. She plays soccer and saxophone, gets good grades, has friends who come over for movie nights and leave pizza boxes scattered across the living room. She's never asked to write to her mother, never asked to visit. I keep waiting for that conversation. Have a therapist on speed dial for when it comes. But so far, Emma seems content to let that part of her history stay buried. Last week, she asked if she could start calling Jennifer Mom. Your mother is still your mother, I said carefully. Even if she's not here? I know, but Jennifer's the one who makes me lunch and comes to my games and helps with homework. That's what a mom does, right? I looked at this almost teenager, this person who'd somehow grown from pigtails and crayon drawings into someone with opinions and logic and a sense of justice that sometimes scared me with its clarity. If that's what you want, I said, and if Jennifer's okay with it, then yes. Jennifer cried when Emma asked her. Happy tears. We're getting married in the fall. I don't think about Rebecca much anymore. Don't wonder what she's doing in federal prison in California, whether she's found religion or education or just counting days. Don't imagine what she'll be like when she gets out. A woman in her 50s, released into a world that's moved on without her. Sometimes Emma will see something on TV about cybercrime or GPS technology, and I'll see her face change. A flicker of something. Recognition, maybe, or remembered pain. But then it passes, and she's just my daughter again, asking if she can have friends over on Saturday or if we can get a dog. We got the dog, a golden retriever named Bailey who sleeps at the foot of Emma's bed and has no idea about any of this. I've learned something in these years since that Thursday morning when Robert Hayes called me to his hospital bed. I've learned that families aren't defined by biology or legal documents or shared history. They're defined by the people who show up, who stay, who choose each other day after day, even when it's hard. My parents drive down from Seattle once a month. Jennifer's sister brings her kids over for Sunday dinners. Emma has grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins who love her, protect her, give her the foundation she needs to build a good life. That's what Robert wanted when he set up that trust fund, when he gathered his evidence and put the choice in my hands. He wanted Emma to have a chance at something better than the legacy Rebecca had built. I think we've given her that. There's a photo on my desk at work. Emma at her last soccer game, muddy and grinning, holding a trophy. Jennifer's arm is around her shoulders. My parents are in the background cheering. Rebecca isn't in the picture, but her absence isn't a hole anymore. It's just space. Space that's been filled with other people, other love, other memories. I've stopped waiting for Emma to ask the hard questions about what her mother did and why. If they come, they come. We'll deal with them together, the way we've dealt with everything else. For now, we're just living, moving forward, building something new from the wreckage of what was. And maybe that's the only lesson I can take from all of this. That you can't control the choices other people make. You can only control your own. You can only decide what kind of person you want to be when everything falls apart. I chose to protect my daughter. To tell the truth, even when it cost me everything. To believe that justice mattered more than keeping a family intact that was already broken. I'd make the same choice again. Emma's reading in the living room when I get home from work. She looks up, smiles. Hey Dad, Jennifer's making tacos. Sounds good. Can Madison sleep over on Friday? Sure. She goes back to her book. Normal teenage request. Normal evening, normal life. It's not the life I thought I'd have, but it's a good one. And in the end, that's enough.